You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Fezcast. I'll start this with a public service announcement. It's hot out there. It's hot, hot, hot. So you should always check up on your elderly friends and everything. So, Duncan, how you doing, mate?
I'm sweltering. Upstairs in my house is sweltering. I need you, Jez, to come round and mop my brow.
Yeah. So, Sam, you're closer to him. Off you go. Join us as well as Sam.
Give me 45 minutes.
And I tell you what, I went out for a 10k run this morning at sort of like 7 o'clock on Bank Holiday Monday. I then interviewed Marcus Street, which is going to be our second interview in this show today. After they've just come off of the training field, and you'll hear in the interview that I said, "Did you take it easy today?" And they went, "No, we just had lots more ice in our water." Was it that what Gareth said? Duncan, Mad Dogs and Englishmen and rugby players apparently are in that crew, aren't they?
It's good that they're putting in the training to get used to the heat. I think it's going to be a hot game next Saturday.
Let's see what happens there. That's going to be in the final part of the show. We've got plenty to discuss this week, Sam. In the middle, we're going to talk about some of the talking points that were brought up by our brilliant listenership. We picked out 3 particular ones to talk about. Duncan, you've got an interview, part 2, as it were, with Joel Tomkins, which is fantastic. That's going to come up in a minute. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention the rugby on the weekend in the competitions. I'm going to say European competitions. I keep on calling it European competitions. But first of all, I mean, there's still space on Andrew Porter's Leinster shirt for that 5th star, isn't there? And everybody was going on about how unlucky they were and everything. Well, find me a tiny violin. I've got a sad song to play for them. Well done to Bordeaux Beglers. I mean, they are a team and a half. But more importantly, I think Exodus, Paris, Billy Vinipola leads Montpellier to a win as well. And well done at Billy. I mean, he had an immense game, didn't he, Duncan?
Yeah, I didn't see the game, and I saw Billy live early on when he moved to France, and he was very unimpressive. He was playing like in those last few months for us, but clearly motivation is incredibly important for Billy. He was refreshed by the challenge of France, and it's obviously just been the making of the final part of his career.
Good to see as well. I mean, there is talk of him potentially turning up for Australia or Tonga in the next World Cup. I mean, if I was Tonga, I would be ringing him up and saying, do you fancy a crack at it? Because I think Sammy could probably offer that team something.
Oh, definitely. He's still got something, hasn't he? And funny enough, you were saying about the motivational part. There was a piece on Rugby Pass. I saw that where he was saying about sometimes it takes me a while to get up and get involved, and he has to be truly invested. So, yeah, he still feels like he has something to offer, something to give. For that Tonga side, I think him and Mako, if the rumours are to be believed, that next World Cup, good luck to them.
I think they deserve to be on that world stage, don't they? And yeah, as I say, Duncan, we'll go back to that Bordeaux-Leinster game. Leinster were cruelly exposed. I think looking at Leinster, they were as cruelly exposed for their lack of pace and excitement, shall we say, up until the point that they just started throwing it around because they had to. Fairly reminiscent of our team at points this season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well done both teams on, again, such a hot day. But you've got to take your hats off to Bordeaux. I mean, that scrum half, bloody hell, his kick-in, all of his game was just something to behold, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how do you improve Bordeaux? Oh, yeah, Tom Willis.
No.
That's a frightening prospect for the rest of the world rugby, isn't it? That Bordeaux team with Tom Willis playing in it, Sam.
Congratulations to them. They made Leinster look like amateurs. I don't know what you do with this Bordeaux team and how you stop them. They're kind of like the Rochelle a couple of years ago in that for all the flair that they have on the backs, you know, Jalabert and Calouri and Pinot and all the rest of it, it's their forward pack that really does set them apart. And yeah, Tom Willis, that team is something else.
They are at the moment the 5th best team in France. Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And in comparison to Leinster, it is more of an achievement for a French team to get there because they have to go a whole season in the most attritional league in Europe to also get to the final of Europe. Whereas Leinster, we know, I mean, nothing wrong with it, but they're able to manage their team to get the best out of it. I mean, rugby in France at the moment is just on a high. It is a huge success story. It helps that they don't have Premier League football to compete with, and we'll talk about the structure of things, but it's just in a great shape at the moment, French rugby. And also, I think a bit like the knockout stages of the Champions League in football, when you get a game like Leinster versus Bordeaux, it's possibly better than international rugby because you've got a world team like Bordeaux, well drilled, playing every week.
Let's be honest, the game of the tournament was Toulouse-Bordeaux, wasn't it, in the quarterfinal? That was the game. You could flip a coin on that, and if Toulouse had taken care of business in the group stage and had it at home, they probably would have won. That was the game of the tournament, that Toulouse-Bordeaux game in the quarterfinals, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, and everyone else is just playing second fiddle at the moment.
Unlucky on Leinster having to play an away match for a change in the Champions Cup. Shall we park that there? And then, Duncan, tell us quickly, we're going to play in an interview you did with Joel Tomkins, but just tee that up for us.
As I say in the interview, Joel Tomkins was the first player that I interviewed. And I interviewed him because he will be the only player who ever plays for both Saracens and the Catalan Dragons, who I follow. And there was a big reaction to it. And the course that his life has taken has been unexpected. And I hope people find it interesting. I certainly did. He's a great talker and a great person to listen to.
Well, let's hear from Duncan in the company of Joel Tomkins.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hello, this is Akina Gondwe of Saracens Women, and you're listening to the Fezcast, and we are both proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association. For a £10 annual subscription to the SSA, you'll get the chance to buy tickets for away matches, receive a regular newsletter, and an exclusive SSA badge. They also arrange pre-match gatherings and player-coach events. As well as sponsoring both me and the Fezcast, they also sponsor Louis Johnson from the men's team and the Saracens Foundation Track Club. Not bad for £10. You can join up at membermojo.co.uk/SSA. Enjoy the rest of this edition of the Fezcast, and I look forward to seeing you at StoneX. Come on, you Sarries.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome back Joel Tomkins. Joel, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Duncan, thank you. Enjoying this weather. Yeah, got a little bit of time off before I start down at Gloucester, so I'm just enjoying that.
A little bit of time off in the heat till July.
Yeah, July, starting down there 13th of July, so it's exciting times.
The first interview that you did with us, Joel, had a huge reaction, and I didn't tell you at the time, although you probably guessed for reasons that I'll cover in a minute, but it was the first interview that I ever did. And I wanted particularly to speak to you because it's a pretty nailed-on certainty that you'll be the only player to ever play for both Saracens and the Catalan Dragons, who are two teams that I follow. And I started to track you down through a friend of mine, Steve Metcalf, who lives in Warrington. And he's got a son who's got a friend who's friends with your brother Sam, and all of them said, oh no, he'll never do it. He's really private. He'll never do it. And then I got a message from your brother saying, what do you want to talk about? Obviously being very protective. And then I got a lovely message from you saying, oh yeah, I'd really like to do it. I don't feel like I ever had the chance to say thank you to everybody at Saracens for the great time and experience that I had there. And then we started the interview and you were very interesting and very open, willingly talking about all those things that Sam didn't want me to ask you, telling a story of your journey from league to union, playing for Saracens, playing for England, going back to league, some of the ups and downs that you had and the demons that you coped with, when I suddenly realised with horror that I hadn't pushed the record button. I don't know if you remember that, but you were already high up on my list in estimation as a player, and you went right to the top as a human being, as you said, almost without stopping for breath. No problem, let's do it again. So I don't feel I ever had the chance to say thank you to that properly, so I'll say thank you to you now.
No, that's fine. No, to be honest, I'd never done a podcast before the last one, and I haven't done one since. So, like you say, it's not necessarily my thing. I would say I'm quite a private person, but I think for what Saracens did for me, and I think there's probably the people listening to this podcast are genuine fans, genuine supporters of players and the club. And you know, I'm probably not the person you're going to see on a big national podcast, but I think for something like what you guys are doing, I'm more than happy to jump on.
Yeah, well, we pride ourselves on being a safe space, and you know, for players and anybody who wants to talk about rugby. And we're not Arsenal TV, where if you'd been an ex-Arsenal player, you might have got a very different experience. We've got many more listeners now than when we spoke to you last. So I'd say to anybody who hasn't heard the interview, please check out season 4, episode 5. It's well worth it. But Joel, when we left you there all of 2.5 years ago, you just started a career as a fireman in Manchester, doing some charity work to keep footballers out of trouble, or help to keep them on the straight and narrow anyway. I don't think many Sarries fans will be aware of the pretty tumultuous journey you've had in that short period. So to kick it off, what drew you back into rugby?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I can't remember exactly when we spoke, but I think I was going through my training course in the fire service. So yeah, retired at the end of 2021. Last game was actually a grand final in October 2021. Straight away went into the fire service, did a 2-year apprenticeship in the fire service. As I got to the end of 2023, I'd been keeping my hand in, just doing a little bit of coaching with the academy at Wigan, just, you know, on a voluntary basis, just a night or two a week. Still got a lot of good friends at the club, very close with Matty Pete, who's the head coach there. And then kind of completely out of the blue, just got a phone call from Matty Pete saying, look, we know you're coming towards the end of your apprenticeship in the fire service, and he just thought it was probably the last opportunity what they'd have to offer me a job, a full-time role back in rugby league. And I suppose it was a crossroads for me there. It's kind of like, am I going to stay in the fire service and have my path kind of set for the next 30 to 40 years? Or am I going to go and take a chance and get back involved in rugby? But it's interesting, really. When I was a player, I moved around a little bit, which we went over in the last podcast, so I won't go over it again. But I moved around a little bit as a player, and I always craved that kind of stability and that consistency, and being able to book a holiday, you know, a year in advance, and know exactly where I'll be on certain times and certain dates. And when I got into the fire service and I had that, I found it a little bit claustrophobic and a little bit, not boring, but a little bit predictable. And then when Matty offered me the opportunity to get back involved in coaching and in professional sport, I thought, you know, I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be in 10 years' time if I stay in the fire service, which I loved, by the way. I loved my time in the fire service. Or, you know, who knows where I'll be in 10 years' time if I go back into professional sport. So I'm a big believer that you regret the things you don't do rather than things you do. And had a chat with Nicola, my wife, and I said, look, I think I'm going to give it a crack. She was a bit nervous about the whole idea, but yeah, it was, like you say, it's been a whirlwind couple of years since then. So yeah, I left the fire service after completing my 2-year apprenticeship. Joined the Wigan Warriors as a kind of hybrid coach, mainly coaching the younger end, even the under-16s and the under-18s and reserves. And then I was in and around the first team, maybe one day a week. I did that for 12 months. And then at the end of the 12 months, I got a phone call from Steve McNamara, who said, look, I'd love you to come on board as an assistant coach. You know, my first reaction was, look, I've been coaching for 12 months, coaching youth rugby for 12 months. And Steve was pretty confident in the fact that I could do a good job straight away. So I joined the Catalan Dragons. And then 6 months later, Steve got the sack. And I was offered the job of head coach. So probably the most inexperienced head coach in the history of Super League. And not only was I offered the head coach role, it was kind of, you know, I was offered the head coach role and told, look, we've got 17 players off contract, and we're going to reduce our salary cap from 2.1 million to 1.6 to 1.8 million. And we're going to have a massive turnover of players, and you're going to be in charge of recruitment and all sorts. So I had some support there at the club, but it was definitely been a tough 12 months, exciting 12 months. I've learned an immense amount about myself and about my coaching ability over the last 12 months being in charge at Catalan Dragons. And then probably for reasons that we can come on to in a little while, I've decided to step away from that role and join Gloucester. So that's what's happened in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'd just like to underline, I had the question put down here that the extremely experienced Steve McNamara was let go, and the very inexperienced Joel Tomkins was put in charge for a team rebuild, the like of which I don't think I've ever seen. There might be something equivalent going on at Newcastle this year, because I think they've let go of over 20 players, I think. So we'll see. They should maybe get you on a side consultancy to tell them how to do it. But the owner wanted a much younger and faster team, didn't he? And you had to recruit a huge number of players and put them together in a pre-season. And then, what was it, about 4 or 5 months in, things were going okay. There were some big losses, but there was also some great wins. And for such a young team to be melded together, it was going okay. When you announced that for personal reasons, you needed to come back to England. Is there any background you can give us about that?
Yeah, like you say, we did a big rebuild at the club, and things were going well. As you say, a little bit up and down, but we're using a massively reduced salary cap, and pretty proud of what we achieved actually with the boys. For the last 18 months, I've been living in France and coaching over there, but Nicola, my wife, and my 2 kids have stayed in England. That was a decision that we made as a family. My daughter's in high school and my son's primary school, and they've already moved to France once when I was a player and joined a French school, and missed a couple of years in the English curriculum. So we made the decision not to disrupt that again and move them over to France. And so I've been doing that for the last 18 months, which has been tough. I mean, for me as a coach, it's probably had some positive sides as well, because I've not had anything else to commit to. I've just literally been coaching for 18 months. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I could come home from work and then crack on with work. So probably not that healthy. But for me as a young coach, not having any other things to deal with at home, it actually really helped me in some ways. But ultimately, it's not nice living away from your family. And something happened where I had to come back to England and for 2 or 3 weeks, which I won't go into. That's a personal one. But I had to come back and spend a bit of time at home for 2 or 3 weeks. And just during that time, I kind of realised that I'm enjoying my time, but I'm probably being a little bit selfish over there coaching. And my son's 9 and he needs his dad, and my daughter's 11 and, she wants her dad around. And, my wife still works full time and she's bringing 2 kids up on her own, and I'm over in the south of France coaching. And I just kind of decided, look, this is selfish, and I need to be back at home with my family, amongst some other reasons why I had to return to England, but that was the main one. Returned back home and spoke to my agent and kind of said, look, can you ever see what's out there? And yeah, he came back to me and said, look, there's a couple of jobs in rugby union if you fancy it. And we won't go over the same things that we did last time, but we had a good conversation last time about probably how much I kind of regretted leaving rugby union at the time I did. And in hindsight, I'd love to have stayed involved a little bit longer. And I can see where the game's going at the minute. I love the brand of rugby that a lot of teams are playing. I mean, the Six Nations competition, what's just been, was unbelievable. I watched every minute of every game in that, I think, and got massive admiration for the sport and where it's going, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So after a couple of conversations with a couple of clubs, I was really impressed with what Gloucester are planning to do and the ambitions that the club have got, and I'm excited to be involved in that.
I was going to ask you whether you'd seen much rugby union lately, because, as you say, a few law changes have very much brought the attack to the fore. And it's almost impossible to stop a team getting a try-scoring bonus point now. And there's no better illustration of that than your ex-near neighbour in Canny Plage near Perpignan, Sean Edwards, after the Six Nations game against England, being asked whether he's disappointed that France had conceded 6 tries, saying, no, not at all. That's rugby these days. England are a really good defensive team and they conceded 7.
Yeah.
So you're joining that ever-increasing band of rugby league coaches who are going over to coach defence in Union. And I wondered whether you were going to ask Sean, Kevin Sinfield, Lee Radford and others, or whether you already had asked them, what have you got to prepare for to try and stop teams scoring tries in rugby union?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're trying to work that one out themselves as well. But yeah, definitely got some contacts, ex-rugby league players who are involved in rugby union now who I'll definitely be giving a phone call to. I mean, Northampton, Bristol, was it a couple of weeks ago, 94-33, I think, like unbelievable score lines. I will be coming in as a defence coach, so my job will be to keep those score lines as low as possible. I don't think anybody wants to see the game go that far. We still want to see those wars of attrition and we want to see those defensive displays. But I think rugby union fans have for a long time been calling for more expansive brands of rugby and more tries being scored. So I suppose it's the game finding that balance within the rule set and coaches finding that balance where, you can play an expansive brand of rugby, but also you're solid defensively. For sure, that's what the best teams are doing in the competition at the minute. Northampton, Bath stand out. And then obviously towards the back end of this season, I think Saracens have been right up with them.
Totally. I mean, I would put Lee Radford, I know nothing about coaching, but I'd put Lee Radford right at the top because he did an amazing job at Saints. Saracens played them in 23. Saints went 40 points ahead because they were already playing that attacking brand, but they couldn't defend to save their life. And now he's come in and they still got that attacking side to them, but he's put that defensive edge, which is why they're right up there at the top. He's going to Scotland as well, so he'll probably give you a few tips now you're not in competition.
Yeah, I've seen that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, Northampton's probably the way that everybody would love to play. They're entertaining, but they've got a backbone as well in defence. So, most certainly that's something that, I'll be going into Gloucester with an attitude that I'm sure they still want to play. They've got an exciting group of backs, especially. They've had a pretty decent attack in the last couple of years, and I know that's something that the club want to keep. But yeah, for me going in with a defensive mindset, I'll certainly be trying to make a difference in that area.
Sarri's last game was against Gloucester, and it was a pretty comfortable game. I think in terms of the way that Gloucester played, it was an indication that their position in the league table is probably an honest reflection of where they stand in comparison to everybody else. And of course, Saracens haven't done you any favours because we've taken the best player there, Thomas Williams, who'll be joining us at scrum half next season. But you said that you were impressed with the plans that they've got. So what have they got planned to sort of lift them out of that bottom 4 and to make them competitive again?
Well, I think the recruitment for next year has been pretty good. Obviously we've got the 2 Welsh boys there, Dewi Lake and Jack Morgan coming in who'll be at the forefront of that recruitment. I just really liked the way the club's set up. I spoke with the owner, Martin St. Quintin, and I thought he was pretty impressive. He actually reminded me of when I met Nigel Ray when I joined Saracens. He's a genuine supporter of the club who's done really well for himself. And it's not about just making money for him owning a rugby club. It's about making a rugby club successful and it means something to him. So I was really, really impressed with that. When I met George Skivington, I thought he was a straight talker. I thought he was quite open and honest with me about what he felt like the team needed to improve and what the team needed to do to climb the ladder. And I was really impressed with that. And then just having a look around the place, and it's a hotbed for rugby union down there, and I think there's bags of potential in the area. And I think with some subtle changes and which they're making next year, nothing against the current group of coaches at all, but everything's got a shelf life, hasn't it? And they're making some changes with the coaches. I think Brett Deacon's going to be a massive addition to the coaching staff with what he's achieved at Leicester. And yeah, I really had a good feel for the place when I was around there. I love the stadium. I love the training ground setup. I've heard the people of Gloucester are extremely, extremely passionate. I'm excited to coach in front of the shed and get involved there. And no, I was blown away really when I spent a day down there at the club having a look around, and it just felt like the right fit. There's a couple of other options that probably didn't go as far down the line, and I could have probably looked into. But as soon as I was speaking to George and Martin and had a feel for the club, it was a no-brainer for me.
I'd forgotten that they recruited Jack Morgan because we were after him for a long time, and it was a bit of a shock when he turned us down. How dare he? But good for you. Best of luck with it, apart from when you play us, of course. It'll be good to see you back in North London. Have you been to the ground since the West Stand was built?
I've not. I am planning on going down to a game, actually. I should have probably gone down when you played against Gloucester, but no, I am planning on coming down to a game and catching up with some ex-players and things like that. Now, I watched a few games on TV, and it looks like the development's looking really impressive. So I'm excited to get down and have a look.
Yeah, it's a proper stadium now that the old stand's gone, and it's got a pretty impressive new one. I mean, it's still, if we can get the crowds up, there's still more to be done, but it really feels like a proper stadium. And I know that you're on the alumni WhatsApp group that Duncan Taylor organises. So have you heard of Noah Calouri and the other great band of young players who are just bursting into the first team now?
I have heard of Noah Calouri, yeah. I in our off-season for Rugby League, I went down and spent a couple of days at Saracens, actually. I approached the club and asked them if they'd be okay when we're going down, and Smalley, of course, was really welcoming, along with Joe Shaw and a lot of the other staff. I had a brilliant couple of days down there with the players, just observing training and just not because they had rugby union in mind, because at that point, I was going into the start of the season at Catalan as head coach in rugby league, but I just went down just to observe and see if there was things that I could pick up, and I picked loads up. But during that couple of days, yeah, I actually spotted Noah. He was doing some catching drills, and he really stood out. And what that guy's doing at that young age is sensational. What was most impressive for me actually on the day when I was watching, I was just stood on the side of the field, and I wandered down because I could see he was practicing some high balls and stuff, and his technique was unbelievable. But he spotted me and watching, and he actually stopped his drill, walked over and shook his hand, introduced himself and said, "Oh, nice to meet you." I had a little chat with him, and I thought, that kid's going to go places because of the ability he's got, but then along with the attitude that he had and the confidence that he's got, he's going to go places. I think with Noah, I've heard a lot of things about people trying to hold him back and, let's not rush him and all that. I mean, for me, he's ready to play. I'd take him with England this summer, and I'd give him a couple of games. I think he's an outstanding talent. I think if you're good enough, you're old enough, and I'd love to see what he could do on a. I'm looking forward to see what he can do in the playoffs, hopefully, if Saracens make it, and then I'd love to see what he could do on an international stage.
Yeah, that's the big debate at the moment. I mean, Chris Ashton's at the other end. He wouldn't send him. Yeah,
I've seen that, and I'm very, very close with Chris and good friends with Chris. But I reckon if Chris was in Noah's position is he 18 or 19? Is he
19? I think he is now. Only just though.
There's plenty of 19-year-olds in rugby league played at State of Origin or Australian rugby league, and I just think the special talents who come along generationally, really, some of the things that he can do in the air. I think if he's ready, let's see what he can do.
I think he's in an interesting period right now, because in the Gloucester game, I think I was noticing when the ball went high to him on the wing, there was a lot of Gloucester players just hanging back on the Saracen side, waiting for his tap back.
You can only really compare him to, a couple of people, can't you? Probably Israel Folau is one who stands out, who could do similar things. In rugby league, we had players like Greg Inglis who could do things like that. But teams basically have to change how they defend to account for it. So if you put in a contestable ball, there's probably no point actually competing for it if Noah's going up for it, because he's 9 times out of 10 he's going to win it. So it'll become more difficult for Noah to execute the skill, because teams will defend differently. But meeting him a couple of times and hearing a lot about it, I'm sure he's going to work out ways to get around teams defending him differently.
I suspect you're right. I was really interested with something you said just a little while ago, because, again, I have conversations with rugby league followers who are, many of them, absolutely adamant that there is nothing that league can learn from union apart from kicking. But you said you picked up quite a lot from Saracens when you were the Catalan Dragons coach. What were the things that you picked up that you think could usefully be brought into league?
Loads of things, not necessarily technical or technique things or tactical things, but a lot of connection stuff. I was probably looking at it with a coach's hat on, but I always loved the way that Smalley delivered his messages when he was coaching, but he's probably changed a little bit the way that he does things, and I was really interested to see how he interacted with players, the little private one-on-one conversations, but then when he was speaking to groups, and not just Smalley, some of the other coaches as well. I think Joe Shaw, he was quite a young coach when I was a player, obviously, and now to see how he's progressed and the level that he's at and the way he delivers his messages. So I picked loads up on that side, and then probably with the players, just the connection, what they've got. And we spoke in our pre-season about being connected and supporting each other, and on the field and off the field. But I just got a real sense at Saracens that there's genuine care for each other and as players. And I think if you have that genuine care around the place, and you're in a tough situation on the field, whether it's, whether you're 2 points down with 3 minutes to go, or whether you're defending your line with a small lead, then I think those connection and that genuine care for each other, I think that can be the 1% that wins you a game. And I was really interested because that's something that is always difficult at Catalan Dragons. You've probably got a third of the squad who's French, you've got a third of the squad who's English, and a third of the squad who's Southern Hemisphere based, roughly. So it's really difficult as a coach to build those connections and that genuine care for each other. You can go and do socials and you can do the things that everybody does, but I think that genuine closeness, care for each other, love, that comes from years and years of playing with each other and understanding each other away from the field and on the field. And I think that's something that Saracens have got with your likes of Owen and Jamie, who's been there for a long time, with some others. And I think, that might be the next challenge for Saracens actually over this next couple of years, when some of those boys finish their careers, and who's the next crop going to be that come through and take over that mantle. Well,
we've got the end of an era in a month or two, haven't we, with the end of Mark McCall's reign. And Brendan Ventnor, his mentor in many ways, is coming back, I think, in an interim role, but it's going to be the big test after Brendan Ventnor as to whether they can keep that spirit within the team going. But I think you've already done it a bit, but how would you sum up Mark McCall as a coach and an influence on a club, etc.?
He's probably become irreplaceable, which is the biggest compliment you can pay him. To be honest, when I was a player, I didn't appreciate Smalley as much as I should have done. I was young. I was probably a bit naive in the way that I thought about the game, the way I played the game. And we touched on it in the last podcast, I think, but I'd come from a very, very different system and then come into this different system at Saracens from what I've been used to at Wigan Warriors. And I was probably only just working it out when I left the club, which is another reason why I probably regret leaving the club. But when I look back now and I'm coaching myself, there's so many things that I take from what Smalley did as a coach, and I try and use them myself. Just his softness, the way that he speak to somebody. Smalley's very, very capable of standing up and giving everybody a bit of a dressing down and telling people that it's not good enough. But what is unbelievable at is the very small, soft conversations about, look, you're not going to play this week because, you finish a conversation actually feeling good about yourself, even though he's just dropped you. And I think he's unbelievable at that, just personal relationships. I genuinely don't think I've ever spoken to anybody who's got a bad word to say about him. He does things his own way. He doesn't try to be anybody else. And he built a good team around him. And I think for me as a coach going into this coaching journey now, I'll take loads of things from all the best coaches I worked with over my career, rugby league and rugby union, but there's a load of stuff that Smalley probably won't even know, but there's loads of things that I'll take from our Smalley coaches into my coaching journey.
Well, that's fantastic, Joel. Thanks once again. You've been fascinating, and it's been a real pleasure to catch up with you. And thanks once again for coming on. And as I say, best of luck going forward.
Cheers, Duncan. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Looking forward to playing against Saracens next year. And we'll see what happens, eh?
We will see what happens. And I can tell you I did hit the record button this time.
Cheers, Duncan. Appreciate that, mate.
Bye.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back after that fabulous little interview you did there, Duncan, with Joel. First things first, got to pick up on a couple of points. Number one, glad you've admitted that you know nothing about coaching, Duncan. So, when we have arguments about coaching and everything like that in the future, I'll just keep throwing that one back at you.
I know a lot about rugby from watching it. I know nothing about playing or coaching, and I've always been quite honest about that.
What a bloke, though. Joel is, I'm going to be very careful how I say this. And I think I said this the first time we came on. If you were to just go by, history, headlines, the troubles he had, adjusted and everything, you'd not ever put Joel Tomkins down as being cerebral or an intellectual or anything like that. But clearly he's a student of the game. Clearly he is someone who wants to be educated about the game and life. Things that he's worked out through his life, what's important. By his kids was very illuminating, how he's made career decisions. I just think he's going to be a huge success, whatever he does, isn't he, Duncan?
I think so. He was a tremendous player, much more successful in league than union. Obviously, he was only in union for a short time. And I think as he was talking about Mark McCall, when you get to the head coach level, I think 60 or 70% of it is psychology and the ability to manage people who are in a high-pressure job and to make that high-pressure job less high-pressure. And that's a large part of what's required to be a successful coach.
I think the other side of that as well is that you've got X amount of people at that organisation. Every single one of them there will have self-belief, confidence, maybe even a bordering on a bit of arrogance that they are the best player in their position. Well, when I interview Marcus Street, that's something that comes out about his attitude towards it, which is quite illuminating. But, how do you manage a load of egos? I mean, we see it in Formula One where they can't manage two egos in a team between two drivers. How do you manage 35 egos?
And also the huge amount of self-doubt that players have as well. So you've got to be able to do both. You've got to be able to manage the likes of Noah Calouri, and you've also got to be able to manage the players who perhaps are doubting whether they're good enough, but they are good enough.
You're right. I mean, the other thing that I wrote down when I was listening to the interview that Duncan did, Sam, was I wrote down future Saracens coach. Because Smalley's on his way out, we know that. Brendan Ventnor, how long is Brendan going to be there? We've been talking about the likes of Andy Farrell. Is he going to come after the next World Cup? This is something that everybody's denied, but you know how Saracens' denials and Farrell's work. But Joel Tomkins is clearly someone who knows the Saracens' way, and there's a connection between the way that Mark McCall's done it for the last 17 years, which, the one thing we hope won't happen is that when Mark does move on at the end of the season, we don't throw baby out with the bathwater. And I'll give you the example. My football team, West Ham, have done exactly that after winning a European trophy 3 years ago to relegation within those 3 seasons. Threw baby out with the bathwater and just made wholesale changes. It's not how you do things. So to see someone like Joel Tomkins, who's clearly learning his trade all around the place. We'd be daft not to keep an eye on him, wouldn't we?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's this Northern Super League era, that golden era of how many league players have transitioned into the union game as not necessarily players, but coaches. So you've got Faz Senior, you've got Sean Edwards, Kevin Sandfield, and Joel as well. But they are just very, very down-to-earth people, hard-working. They want to be the best at their craft, but they also know how to treat people and players as individuals. And he is definitely one to mark and keep an eye on.
There's an awful lot of ifs, buts and maybes, aren't there? And I suspect that as far as Saracens are concerned, Andy Farrell is plan A. But, he probably is not going to make a decision. I mean, the World Cup doesn't end until November 2027, and he's be focused on the World Cup, etc. And there will be quite a few plan Bs in operation, won't there? I don't think Brendan Ventnor will be here for too long because he's got such a successful life back in South Africa. I mean, the one thing that I will say in Joel Tomkins' favour is that I didn't really manage to convey the huge job that he had to do last winter at the Catalan Dragons.
Yeah.
There's a very impulsive owner of the Catalan Dragons. He's a butcher. To call him a butcher is it's a bit like calling, I don't know, somebody who owns a huge, great Ford franchise, a garage. He's a very successful businessman. But he decided that he wanted to see wholesale changes in the teams. And there you've got this bloke who, as he said, was a youth coach and then an assistant coach for a few months, who did an amazing job at completely reconstructing a team with a whole influx of young players and then melding them together into a really competitive unit. So he must have learnt so much from that, and he'll learn a lot at Gloucester as well.
The multicultural thing as well, like the French players that he had to bring in as well. But yeah, show me one of those league lads that have come over and haven't been successful. It's a very short list.
Shall we take a break there and then we'll come back and we're going to talk about some key issues that our listenership have put to us to discuss.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis and you are listening to the Facecast.
This is the Fezcast.
Thank you to everybody who tunes into the pod, who rose to the occasion and put some ideas out as to what we need to talk about. And there was quite a lot there, wasn't there, Duncan, that we've seen come through on the various social medias. I think we're going to pick up on three. Because there have been three things that are being key. First of all, bonus points. And probably, given that you follow the top 14 a lot closer than the rest of us, you're probably the key person to explain what happens in the top 14. But the basic premise behind it is that Bristol Bears went out against Northampton and got kicked all over the place. Embarrassingly so. To the extent that if I was Ellis Kenge, the Bristol Bears captain, I'd be suggesting to my teammates that I refunded every single Bristol Bear fan who made the journey to Franklin's Gardens because it was that bad. But because of the way rugby is, they scored 4 tries and they got a bonus point. And they didn't really deserve it, did they, Duncan?
Definitely not. I mean, I think a few years ago, before the recent law changes in rugby, score 4 points and you get a bonus point worked. It made teams go out there, try and score tries in an era in which it was more difficult to score tries. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got the Bristol Bears example. You've also got the example from us against Gloucester, where we scored our 4 bonus points and then thought, well, job done, and understandably foot off the gas a bit, and we allowed Gloucester to come back. Now, the French system, to get an attacking bonus point, is that you have got to win by 3 tries or more. And if that system had been in place, we would have been, 4 tries to 2 against Gloucester? We would not have got the bonus point. So we would have had to have kept going.
Yeah.
Which is a better system, really, isn't it? So I'd cite those 2 examples. The one you said, absolutely right. You shouldn't get a bonus point if you concede 90 points against you. And B, you want a system now in this era where it's much easier to score tries, where you keep the game going.
And I remember when bonus points were brought in, everybody was going, well, why are we doing that? And let's be honest about it. I played in an era where a 6-3 game was seen as entertaining. The last time England won in Cardiff before, in the 1960s, they won 9-3 or something daft like that. But it was 3 points for a try sort of thing, And then we had the concerns about kicking for goal. It's like when you see George Ford. George Ford at the moment is a player whose initial instinct seems to be drop goals because he just wants to keep the scoreboard ticking, and it's a little bit negative, isn't it, Sam?
I would adopt the top 14 in a heartbeat, but also as well say that if you lose by more than 10 points, 14 points, the bonus try's gone.
They have the same system for the defensive bonus point in France as we do, which is you have to be within 7 points. And I think that works.
That would have been a hell of a game at Saints if that was the case. It was 93-86, wasn't
it? Yeah. I think every Bristol game would be that, wouldn't it? And because they can't defend. The champ is adopting the French system next season. So, I think it's a matter of time, really.
We always talk about getting bums on seats, which we're going to come on to into our next point. And we want to see excitement in rugby. Now, you and me, Duncan, be off air last week, we were discussing about 4.5 size balls and 5 size balls and everything like that. And I made the comment, and I don't stick by my comment in so much as I don't like seeing you coached down, as it were, because if it makes the game more exciting, that's the way it's going to go. But you like turning around at players who can't cope with a bigger ball while you're saying, and you said that Jamie George would love to have seen it in the men's game. And I could understand why, but I just like to see it coach everybody up to be able to do the same. And in the same way, when it comes to the bonus points and everything, you want people to be scoring more tries. So you're coaching better and better attacks. And you're not rewarding teams for parking. It's a lot more difficult in rugby than it is in football to park the bus. But Saracens do seem to do it quite well. Get a lead and then just say, right, okay, you're only going to score 3 tries to our 5. Whereas if you're Northampton Saints at the moment, you're saying, well, you're only going to score 3 tries to our 17.
When the people who run rugby do something well, you have to give them the credit because they normally don't. And the rule changes over recent years have made, I think, rugby is more entertaining than it's ever been. And there are more tries than there ever been. And that is why you have to change the bonus point rules now, because it's very hard to stop any team who's given it a good go to score less than 4 tries now.
We're going to have an attractive free-flowing game with lots of bonus points for teams willing to risk one. But we have a league structure that really doesn't support that, does it? I mean, and that's something that's come out an awful lot. Promotion relegation is an issue on it, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But league structure as it stands makes a mockery of any attempts to do it. We sat there, what was it? We said we hadn't played at home since January up until 3 weeks ago, and then we haven't played at home for almost a month because of various things that are going on. How do you expect clubs to turn money to keep people coming week in, week out if it's 3 months in between games and everything? People plan other things because they could go to the football every other week. Their football team will be playing a home match every other week and potentially on midweeks as well. Now, I know rugby and football are different in the impacts and everything, but it's a joke the way that it's set up with 10 teams. There are far too many gaps. If you don't qualify for the knockout stages of the Champions Cup, you're at a disadvantage straight away for the rest of the season because you will not be as match sharp as Bath or Northampton Saints. And yes, there is an argument to say that you need to be better. As I say, coach up to be better. But if you don't qualify for whatever reason, then you have 3 weeks off where you're just holding tackle pads for each other. And it just loses all momentum for the team, the squad, and more importantly, the fans, Duncan.
Totally. We got here mainly because Wasps and London Irish and Worcester went broke. So we ended up with 10 teams. And then I think the remaining teams said, well, actually, we can make some positives out of this because one of the problems had been that the league carried on through the international windows, and Saracens used to suffer greatly, didn't we? In that we'd lose half the team. Everybody's saying, well, this is crazy. You want to see the stars. So they thought, OK, well, we'll have a structure where all the really meaningful games have the stars and will be outside the international windows. And then what happened? England went and nabbed another 2 weekends and then dictated that, do you remember that game against Toulon? We weren't able to put out a decent team because there was a requirement to rest. It was suffering from the encroachment of the international game onto the club game, which will always be a problem. I think they have to give up on that battle to try and have all of our stars in all of the games, because it's universally recognised now that 10 teams is just a joke. The other thing at the time I remember was Lucy Ray saying, oh, good news, we're going to have this other competition called the Prem Cup. And I think everybody was sitting there thinking, you're talking about the A-League.
Yeah.
Those games we used to go to for nothing. And that doesn't work either. The Prem Cup doesn't work. So there's an interim step now to definitely go to 12 teams, and there'll be a big debate about who those teams are. And I think it will then go to 14 teams in time. And I've got a lot of strong ideas about what the structure should be once we hopefully get to 16. But it's universally recognised that this 10-team league doesn't work.
OK, well, here's my punt for my debenture at Twickenham. 16-team league, it could be done. You just have to go and ask Ulster, Cardiff, Definitely, Glasgow, Edinburgh to join in. That helps Newcastle, in so much as that Newcastle gets games against Edinburgh and Glasgow that are a lot closer to them than an awful lot of other games. And we have a British and Irish Lions League. Sod the French and sod the Italians, let them get on and what they want to do themselves.
The URC will still have an existence, but let's pick up, for starters, the teams that the Welsh Union want to cast aside. So we bring that Anglo bit back in. I don't know about Ulster and that coming in. I just don't know whether they would do that. But I'd bring the Welsh teams in straight away. I'd take the Welsh teams out of the URC and the 2 Scottish teams and have that. And then I'd leave the URC to the Irish and the Italians. And
the idea of promotion relegation isn't such a bad idea to get jeopardy. But whilst the Championship is underfunded and has teams with the greatest respect like Ampthill, who play on a pitch that anybody can go along and turn up to, or Bedford, who, bless them, are a club with history and everything, but they haven't got the background, it's pointless. If we had a Division 2 like they do in France, where you've got teams like Brive, you might have yo-yo teams there, but they do still come in and, we saw it with Vans, that they were competitive and they're in towns that can support it. We don't have that in this country because we have this thing called football. And France doesn't have it to the same level. So to sit there and say, yeah, I'd love to see promotion and relegation. I'd love to see 3 leagues of 10 teams, for instance, that might work as well as a different thing. It's not going to happen. At the end of the day, we've got a professional game in this country and we've got a semi-professional game and an amateur game. And unfortunately, you've got to keep them apart.
the easiest way is to bring the Welsh teams and the Scottish teams in out of the URC.
More than that. I mean, it is absolutely right. You cannot ignore the finances in rugby. It's a very, very fragile sport. Unfortunately, it's run by the clubs. And so you've got, this fight that they don't want to spread their central funding more thinly. The great idea about bringing in the Welsh and the Scots and possibly the Irish is that you immediately increase the size of your TV deal, and it will be largely self-funding for those clubs to come into the Premiership, as well as creating some great derbies for Gloucester and Bristol and Bath and what have you. Having a 16-team league home and away with no relegation, you're going to get a lot of dead rubber games. So you have an A and a B. If you're in A, you play all the teams in A home and away, and that's 14 games. In the international windows, you play all of the teams in B once, and that's the 22 games that a 12-team Premiership has. One key thing is you have to do it in a way that the central income is equal for everybody, so that relegation isn't the financial death that it would be at the moment. And the other way that you avoid that financial death is because even if you are in B, you are at least once playing all the big teams from A. So you're not in a second-class league. You're not in one that struggles to sell hospitality, that struggles to sell season tickets, etc. And you've also got the possibility to have, as well as champion top of A playoffs, you can have relegation playoffs between the bottom of A and the top of B, etc. And you can have a lot of really competitive, exciting games.
The other thing as well then is you look at the structure of when you play those games. And I think there's an argument for saying, right, August, you start Champions Cup up until autumn internationals. The start of the season is basically you qualify for the Champions Cup or Challenge Cup from the season before. You play that in that block from August to November internationals. Now, after the autumn internationals, you play your league in 2 blocks. And yeah, you might well be playing longer in the season, but these players play 12 months a year anyway now with tours and internationals and everything like that. So you might find players, you might have to have larger squads, but if there's money coming in because you've got better TV deals, then you can afford to up the salary cap so you've got larger squads so that you can rest players, but you're not resting Jamie George, Owen Farrell, Ben Earl, Maritos, you're all in the same game. You've got 1 or 2 of your superstars playing in each game, sort of thing. That's the way I think it should go. But they won't do that, will they, Duncan? Because you'll sell me something about turkeys and Christmas now, won't you?
I hope they cotton on to the idea. It's not being discussed at the moment. While I am vehemently against the idea that you choose who is in the top table by automatic promotion and relegation, you could take it to an extreme. I mean, imagine if somebody, this can't happen, but I'll say it to illustrate why automatic promotion is a bad idea. Imagine if somebody set up a pitch across the road from the Stonex, put some rope round a pitch and a few temporary stands, and then spent 2 million a season, which a fairly run-of-the-mill millionaire could do, like Ealing, would win the league. And then we've suddenly got a team that would be cheaper than Saracens in a terrible situation just across the road, eating into the fan base that we desperately need. That's how bad an idea automatic promotion and relegation is. But a structured way to increase the size of the professional game and make it more healthy has got to be sought.
As you said, Sam, earlier on, we could go on forever about this. So I'm going to bring in the last point, which I can't remember who sent it. And I think you sent it on, Duncan, that someone had put in a big, long diatribe, basically, about how we deal with referees. And I had an awful lot of sympathy with an awful lot of what was said. And I do hope that when they listen to us on the Fezcast, they realise that we do try and be as even-handed as we possibly can. And you're right, without referees, you don't have a game. Referees make one mistake, they're pillared for it. Players make 20 mistakes, then you've had half a decent game. All of these different points are made. Very valid. However, when we talk about professionalism and amateur play and everything, are more valid for the amateur game than they are for the professional game. And at the end of the day, the likes of Carl Dixon and Christoph Ridley, who have been criticised by us on the Fezcast in recent weeks, and all the rest, your Luke Pearces, your Matthew Carleys, whatever, they're professional. They're paid to do a job. Are they paid enough? Are they given enough training? Are they given enough support? That's a different question. But at the end of the day, if you're a professional, facilitating professional sportsman, who we will criticise the professional sportsman, and quite honestly, I'm quite happy for them to criticise us if they think that what we do is not great. That's fair. You're putting yourself out there. If you make a mistake, I think it's fair to criticise. It's not fair to turn around and say, oh, Carl Dixon, you had a terrible game. That's because you're a wanker. That's wrong. Or whatever, whatever abuse you might throw at him. But I think it's fair to point out when Carl Dixon or Christoph Ridley have a bad game, they're professionals. I think they want to hear from people to say in the right way, constructively, criticise a performance because they'll learn from it, you would hope, and go away and improve because of it.
Do you think they would? I'm not so sure. Let's be honest, they're being paid. They're not being paid very well. I don't think they're doing it for the money. I think they're doing it because they want to do it, because they love the game. And they call the game as they see it. And sometimes we see it differently. And let's be honest, when we're watching a game, if it's light, especially me, I'm the world's worst. I am emotionally invested. And that's why I watch a game back on the telly a lot of the time to try and say, okay, was that a fair call? But these lads, I think they do it because they want to do it. And I think it boosts their ego a bit, if I'm honest, Jez. I'm in charge, and I've called it as it is. Especially Christoph Ridley, Bristol game a few weeks ago. How Joe Batley never got cited for that blatant whack on Morrow, I'll never know. But there we go. There's another story. But no, I think these boys know exactly what they're doing. I think they love it and they like the spotlight.
I blame Nigel Owens for that. The old Nigel Owens, blow the whistle, pithy comment.
Nigel Owens was good. I don't know what you got against Nigel, mate. I thought Nigel Owens was one of the best that we've ever seen.
Oh, he was a great referee, but he did enjoy throwing in a little funny, didn't he, Duncan?
Oh, no, his video highlights on YouTube are fantastic. I think it's a very Marmite subject. And I don't say one side is right and one is wrong. I mean, you and me, Jez, are on... For a change, we're on the opposite side of the argument. Isn't that funny? There are some people, I don't say this is wrong, who really like discussing referees. I personally find it quite a boring subject. But that's me, I'm not saying I'm right, but I just do. Sometimes it's absolutely right. There's a glaring mistake and it has to be discussed. But I think you may well have a point, Sam, that it actually requires a certain amount of ego to do the job that they do. I think that they train hard for it. They are professional. They do their best. And as I've said before, I very much come from the school of thought that rugby refereeing is a case where two wrongs do make a right. The game tends to even up. And it's just, for me, there are other things that I'd rather discuss. But if you enjoy discussing referees, then by all means, fill your boots.
Christoph Ridley, I'm a friend with him on Facebook. So if Christoph is allowed to come on and discuss being a referee, we'd welcome a conversation with him for certain. As you say, Sam, in the emotion of the game on the day, and I mean, there are plenty of flag boys up and down the country, you've been had the benefit of my wisdom on more than one occasion, giving them advice. And as I said, used to say when I was a player, I only ever got penalised as a player because referees knew I was right. And are they a necessary evil? No, they're not a necessary evil, but they are an important part of the game. And yeah, as being an important part of the game, they're as much a part of the entertainment as they are as part of the... A good referee keeps a good game flowing, and we discussed it before earlier on in the season, didn't we, Duncan? Where referees are obviously clearly making a decision that they're going to let a few things go. They'll allow the TMO to pull them back if they need to. There's perhaps a little bit of a reliance on the TMOs now that I'd like to see come out. And there was a comment that someone made that they should be looked at if they're onshore on a try and for acts of foul play. Anything else, what the referee sees, let it go and go. And, like we discussed in football, if it's clear and obvious, if you need 274 different views of 18 different angles, it's not clear and obvious. So if you can't work out within 2 or 3 goes, move on.
I almost fell off my chair. Was it last week or the week before when I wasn't on? And you made an incredibly good point, Jez, about another innovation that we should bring in from rugby league, which is that the referee hands over the decision to the TMO, who then comes up with a decision quickly. And that is a much better system than this sort of conference that goes on between 3 people on the pitch and one upstairs. So that's a much better way. If I may, I would just raise one point which I think needs to be taken into consideration, unfortunately, in this age where people who are not able to keep their emotions in perspective and are given access to social media. One of the best referees of all time, Wayne Barnes, retired way ahead of his time because of the effect that it was having on his family. And I think it's something for everybody in public life, when we want to criticise them, it's something that unfortunately has to be borne in mind.
I think the important thing is, as our correspondent said, if you haven't done it, then it's very difficult. And, if anybody wants to challenge me to referee a game of rugby at the top level, I'll give it a go and see what a rickets I make of it. But there you go. But we'll move on from that and say thank you again for everybody who responded to our plea to come up with some topics. Hopefully that's answered a few questions. Let us know if it has or not, and that'll be brilliant. But we'll have a break. And then after the break, I sat down this afternoon, as I say, we're recording on Bank Holiday Monday, with Marcus Street, who looked pretty hot and bothered as he came off the training paddock, but sat down and had a fabulous chat with him. What a lovely guy.
Hey, it's Charlie Hodgson, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, I'd like to welcome to the Fezcast somebody that we've wanted to speak to this week or this season, joined us at the start of this season, and has impressed in his debut season at Saracens and been a standout performer, a tighthead prop with an impressive moustache. Welcome, Marcus Street, to the Fezcast. How are you doing, Marcus?
Very good, thank you. Very good, very good.
You just come off the training field in 32 degrees heat. Yeah. I mean, I did a 10K run this morning. I went out at what I would say is a reasonably sensible time. But, I mean, how was her training today?
It was tough. It was too hot. It was too hot for me. I prefer the rain, I'm not going to lie. So it was so hot.
What was training like today? Do they still expect you to go through the full beans, or is there, plenty of water stops?
There was plenty of water stops, but we're still going flat out. So it was nice when you got your rest. You have they had like ice in the water bottles today, so it kept you cool. Squad over you, and then just carry on, keep going.
I admire your dedication because, I mean, I've been sat there this afternoon waiting to do this interview in front of a fan sort of thing and thinking about doing some housework over it. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of talking about your position and propping and the things that you are doing around the game as well, which I know you want to talk about, let's have a quick chat about the season so far, because we're coming to the business end of the season.
Yeah.
On a personal level, well, I said you're a standout player. You've really impressed us. And I mean, we had a big call out on Rugby Pass the other week when they gave you 6.5. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was the Bristol Bears game or the Sale game. You got 6.5 points. And we're sat there thinking, did they actually watch the bloody game? Because we're sat there and, what we always say about players is that you want players who will give you 8 out of 10 every game.
Yeah.
And you are one of those players this season. We were pumping you in November before you got your injury.
Yeah.
So we're going down like 9 pins in the league, including yourself. And we're thinking England must be knocking on the door at some point. And, you continued going on that season. I mean, how do you feel it's gone for yourself this season?
I think it's been excellent, really. I think that for me personally, I've had like a new club, new players, new coaches. Everything's been new. I'm one of those players that I enjoy throwing myself at the deep end. So for me, obviously I was born in Exeter, played a lot of rugby at Exeter. It was kind of like, I just feel that I need that. Something new, something fresh to change things up a little bit. And to be fair, the season's gone really well. I think I've got to give massive credit to the coaches and to the players as well, that they give me that ability to go and do what I do a little bit. I'm one of those players that I enjoy doing that kind of hard, unseen work, and here they see it. It's just been fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've just really enjoyed my rugby this season. So I've enjoyed every game.
It comes through, doesn't it? Because we spot it. I'm not saying that I'm like, in any way, a top quality pundit or anything. I mean, if TNT Rugby do want to, HBO Max, whatever it is nowadays, if they do want to pull me in for a shot, I'll give it a go. But I mean, what we want as players, and we say it all the time, and I think I was down when I interviewed Reece Carey, and let's come on to Reece in a minute, but you guys are around there, and I think you understand that effort for the fans means as much, if not more, than performance and result.
Well, yeah, for me, it's kind of going back to my business stuff a little bit, that I've kind of try and kind of go around my game with that NTB, so no talent battles. It doesn't take talent to chase a kick. It doesn't take talent to get back. It doesn't take talent to get off the floor. So for me, it's kind of like that's the thing that I think about a lot. Wouldn't say I'm the most talented player. I just like doing that unseen work that kind of helps the team where it can. Kind of for me, I like hitting the breakdowns, doing things like that where get that speed of ball ready for the attack, to have quick ball, things like that. It's that unseen work, but it's really important. I'm one of those players that kind of know what I'm good at, and I just kind of stick to the things that I know as such. And yeah, kind of following that NTB, no talent battle, is kind of a big thing, kind of what I focus about.
I interviewed Reece Carey a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about yourself. And he was saying about how important it is to have a tight head who does all of those unseen things, who's a rock upon which the scrum is built. Do you enjoy working with Reece on the other side? Yeah, obviously you got Jamie, you got Theo as hookers. I mean, how enjoyable is it playing with those guys?
You got Reece that's kind of, we work well together. Reece likes to carry, I like to clear out. So if I'm in that position to carry, I'll be like, Reece, you're a big man, you get there, you run over people, and I'll be there to kind of get that quick ball. Same with both of those hookers. Same with kind of the whole front row Roni as well. They're big ball carriers. They're amazing, good with their hands. Where kind of the way I see it is you want to have everyone that can carry and do well, and totally agree with that. But there'll be times you need that player to get quick ball, things like that, kind of that unseen work we spoke about. Get those guys on the ball, get them to bat. You've seen what Reece can do for Wales, that wonderful try he scored. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I want him to do that. And then if there was a breakdown before me, just come through, clear that breakdown out. Someone else scores. Perfect.
Excellent stuff, isn't it? Take us through what a tight head does. As part of the show this week, we've discussed a lot about things that people want to see improvements in and everything like that. And people talk about referees and whatnot. And what are referees that, they always talk about painting pictures. What, you as a tight head, what picture are you trying to paint so that Christoph Ridley or Carl Dixon or whoever is refereeing you's going, yeah, he's on top?
The easiest one is just to go forward. That's the just push is what they say. Just push them out of the way. But then you have those guys that sometimes want to mess about a little bit, take it to the floor, things like that. So it's hard sometimes to paint a good picture when it does go to the floor, because sometimes it's like, well, I don't even know what's happened. It's just felt weird. That's the problem with scrums sometimes. Sometimes they feel really good. Sometimes you've got two teams trying to do different things. Sometimes it is uncomfortable. But me as tired, it's kind of going at that 1 o'clock staying square, staying there, and then we've got someone like Big Reece that can get it going, and I can follow him, or we do what we need to do in the front row. You have a lot of people that are wanting props that can carry well, play the ball and things like that. And you have a lot of young guys, that's kind of all they focus on is, I'm a prop that can carry the ball really well, things like that, which is key. But as a prop, we need to be focusing more on set piece. Massive.
Yeah.
You've got a prop that can't scrummage, or you can carry. I know it's all well and good he can carry, but it's kind of, that's the bread and butter of the game as a front row, set piece. So that needs to be the first thing. That's where I go into my business is kind of, I want those young players to remember that set piece is super important. It's not just about having a prop that can, that's kind of like a prop that can play well is more like a bonus, an add-on. It's like it's not his super strength. It'll be a strength that he's got. It's like another string to his bow, but that bow needs to be set piece orientated. Scrum, line out is kind of like the most, I think that's kind of like the center part. And then you can have little parts to go off. Every prop's got their little thing. Like you've got Reece, this awesome carrier. You got like Jinxie that can play the ball really well. You got Theo that's kind of a powerful, elusive player. Then myself, kind of, I focus a bit more on the breakdown aspect of things and a little bit more defense type of stuff. So it's kind of it kind of all stems down to set piece, and that's the most important thing that mainly young people and every prop should be kind of focused on, is that set piece first, and then you can develop things from there.
Interesting you say that, because I mean it's something that I always talk about when we talk about various aspects of, people want us to go wide or they want to do this. You've got to earn the right to be expansive.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. Now, the other question on the back of that, we talked about, you said about some loose heads are more difficult to play against than others.
Yeah.
Who's been the one this year who's caused you the most problems?
Reece, just in training. And it's hard because I scrimmage against him more. He probably knows me a little bit more. He's just a big man. He's excellent scrimmager. Excellent. It's kind of, he's the one that I kind of just think about. I've got it tomorrow and you never know, I could be scrimmaging against him and I just got to be focused at that point because he's such a big man and he's a good scrimmager, Reece.
One of our guys in our first cast asked, what's more preferable to prop against, a quick athletic prop or a large immovable beast, as it were?
Probably the large guy, but it's one of those that maybe if you take him later on in the game, I might be able to get one over on him later on in the game when he's a bit tired. But compared to the other guy that might be flying around for a full 80, feeling fit. So it's one of those that it's tough. It's tough. They can both be difficult. I think I'd rather go against one that's not set piece orientated so I can get a few scrum pens and feel happy.
We'll move on now and talk about your coaching clinic and your business and everything, because it's really important. But I suppose, do you pride yourself on the fact that you talk about those no talent battles, about being, I suppose one of them is about being fit to be able to, if you need to, go 80 minutes.
Yeah.
You could be a bench player who comes on 5 minutes into the game, or your prop gets sin binned and you suddenly got to come back on again. I mean, how much pride do you take in that element?
So one of the highlights of the season is I played that full 80 minutes against Toulouse.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of playing the full game, which I think that's the first time I've ever done that. Definitely was the first time I've ever done that. So it was massive. I enjoyed that. I may need to get like the win, and it was like a close game throughout, and we won. And we had some good scrums getting to the back end of it. And we had some good scrum penalties, which kind of pushed us up the field well. It was a tough game, but it was a good game. It was definitely one of the highlights of my season, playing that full 80.
What goes through your mind on 79 minutes and you've got that last scrum and you've hit 20 scrums in the game or something and you've just sat there thinking, I just want to get off the pitch and have a beer?
It was like I'd say 60 minutes, I was like, you know what, I am feeling it now. And then as it gets into 70, you're like, ooh, we only got 10 minutes here. It's pretty cool to play the full 80. Then when it gets to that last few minutes, it's like, I'm just going to do whatever I can to stay on this field, because like, it's like a big thing playing that full 80. I wanted like something that like not many players really get to do. So I was kind of like, just wanted to keep going. And yeah, it's massive. But the thing is, when you've got the guys around you to kind of pump you up and get you going, it's the feeling of wanting to do it for the team as well. Like the way they've took me in, I've got no doubt in my mind that I'm going to push my absolute hardest for those people, the whole squad, the whole team, including the coaches, including the fans. I want to go out there and do as best I can. So that last scrum, you're just kind of thinking like, right, it's the last one. Let's end it on a high. It's kind of my mindset.
Brilliant. That Toulouse performance was outstanding, wasn't it? And brilliant for it. Now, we touched on it already a couple of times, but give you the opportunity to talk about what you're doing outside, well, not outside the game, but outside Saracens and your business, about coaching clinics. And we talked about how you're taking this to the kids and looking for the next generations. And we'll have a question on the end of that for you. But talk us about the business and what it is, what you do, and what you're seeking to achieve. Your mission statement in business speak, as it were.
Yeah. So my business, NTB, I think I've already said this, No Talent Battle. So pretty much what it is kind of like an online. I'm like a little bit like an online coach, but I'll be giving the same type of tips, same type of stuff as like a scrum coach would in a premiership environment. So I'm giving like gym programs, I'm giving like a scrum program to work on those little bits. Two very key important parts as well is making sure your neck's strong, because I've suffered with neck injuries and I know the importance of having a strong neck, making sure you're getting looked after at a young age and making sure that you kind of think like, oh, I'm young, I'm indestructible, I'm just going to do bench. It's not just for young guys, but it's definitely for the older guys as well, that are playing rugby just for fun, or even just wanting to move up levels. You got to have a strong neck. So the last thing you want to be doing is messing your neck up.
Yeah.
I've done it. It's tough. I've got muscle wastage on this side. I had a disc replacement. So they took my disc out, put like a new one in. So I had like a pretty decent op on my neck. So I just want people to be safe in that aspect and kind of make people understand that it's not just about doing the beach weights and looking big and strong. It's about actually setting yourself up. And also your core as well, massive for scrummage. And I think sometimes it gets missed a little bit. I think having that full picture as an athlete scrummaging is super important. And then kind of I'll go through their scrums, and I do enjoy having a look at their game as well and then kind of helping them full picture and kind of talking a little bit like, and I'll talk to them like I spoke to you about how important it is to scrum, and then your other little bits, and then kind of you look super strength on top of that. Scrums are main important. If you're a good carrier, that's perfect. You do that, but make sure scrum's the first thing we focus on, and I kind of do things like that. And that's kind of it really. And I just kind of want those young guys to be the best version of themselves and kind of understand. So I wouldn't say when I was younger, I had that NTB mindset. I would say that it took me a little while to develop it. It was actually my first injury when I must have been like 18, 19, when I'd done my knee. I think I kind of developed that mindset. And then the likes of kind of looking at the likes of like a Jack Yendall when I was younger, watching him, he's a man that in the gym will lift to his maximum. When I was younger, I kind of looked up to him and just thinking like, that's perfect. And that's kind of what I wanted to take on. And then I kind of want young people to understand that how important that NTB is. And just for like general life, even if they don't make it as a rugby player, how important it is just to have that that work rate and that. And I just think it's important for people.
It's great to hear that, because I mean, it's something that when I was a young rugby player that I never had that. And I never had really anybody giving me peers, as it were, saying, these are the pitfalls, these are the things. And you're right, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you know everything anyway, don't you? And It's very difficult to get that through to people. Now I'm running marathons and I'm in my 50s. I really wish I had that same attitude back then. So having people to give that attitude to and helping and directing in the right way, because I think the last thing you want is people to turn around and say, you must do it this way.
Yeah.
I suppose it's helping people to find the answer for themselves, is it?
Exactly. It's kind of, you can't just, it's not something you can just have that mindset. I think it does, some people have it. I think sometimes you've got to develop it, and that is Mike Tyson's quote that I like to use sometimes is that do things you hate, act like you love it type of thing. I think that's important, that discipline of just like, let's be honest, no one wants to wait. I remember times in the gym I've been up at, like in the off season on my own, 5 o'clock in the morning, because I want to get stuff done so I can spend time with my family at the end of the day. And I'll be up at 5 o'clock in the morning thinking that kind of mindset I have is no one's doing this. Obviously, no one wants to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be doing gym when I've got nothing else to do. But there's a reason why I'm doing this, and it's important. And that mindset of I'm going to do this and it's going to make me better, get it done, and then go from there. And I think it's just important.
Is there anybody at Saracens you think who actually epitomises that you would turn around to young players and say, look, this is someone who has got that attitude?
Yeah, I think it would be easier for me to name the people that don't have it. I think everyone here has it. I come in and you see the young lads working hard. They're in the young lads' gym earlier, but you see them working as hard as the older guys. I would say everyone's got it here. You see Faz coming in and just doing bits all the time, and like you just look up to those players a lot. Maro, to be fair, they're all doing it. And then when it comes to training, they're switched on, ready to go. Yeah, like I said, it's probably easy for me to name people that don't do it. Everyone does it.
Well, we won't ask you to name any shirkers at Saracens, just in case we want them on the Fezcast in the future. But I mean, it's interesting what you say. It's about the old Gary Player quote, isn't it? That people used to call him a lucky golfer, and he turned around and said, "The more I practice, the luckier I get."
Yeah,
it definitely is that. It's having that mindset and everything. Now, you mentioned the youngsters. I mean, what we're interested. You're still a relatively young man in the game. I mean, you as a pro,
27. I don't think it's too old.
I mean, you still got a few years left in you and everything, but who's the youngsters coming through? Who is there any of the the academy guys that come through now, and you're seeing those guys training? Who are we looking out for the future now?
Well, Noah's obviously flying at the moment, a young guy that's going super well. As soon as I think about that, I'm thinking about the scrum. I'm thinking you got Totoa, big, second row. He's a good pusher. You got Kendo, he's another excellent pusher, 2 big second rows. I enjoy having those guys behind me when scrummaging. So young lads there. You got Dricko. He's a good scrummager. He's a good scrummager, and he gets like a lot of reps and stuff, and he works hard. Man, I've just seen him throughout the start of the season where I've just seen him grow throughout the season, which has been really nice. We've had a few little convos about things and about how the scrummaging, I have to say, he was a very honest scrummager, which is nice. But then scrummaging is not always about just being honest and being nice. It's about putting people into uncomfortable positions. It's not just about pushing square nicely. It's nothing worse than having a loose head coming in at you, and then your hooker coming in at you and you're feeling horrible. But you stay there, that's impressive. And you're just trying to speak to him about being a little bit more like, being more horrible is a nice way to put it.
I used to play my club rugby behind a couple of lads, Johnny Wiblin and Ben Caudle. I'll give him a shout. Ben went to Henley Hawks, but then had a bad neck injury. Was a very good player at tighthead. And Johnny Wiblin was one of those old style loose head props. And he used to sing "Come Fly With Me" as he put tightheads up into the air in scrums, which was always quite good fun. But playing in the back row behind those guys, I got so many armchair rides. It was fantastic. You're going to get effort from everybody, as you've already mentioned. But, if you were to pick your flanker to be on your backside shoving with a second row behind you, who's your ultimate choice there?
Oh, you're going to make it hard for me to pick someone now. You think about weight, sometimes when Lit's there, he's pretty good. Theo, when he's there, second row, you got Big Tiz, obviously, in the second row. He's normally the guy that's been pushing by me this season. It's been excellent. So he's been awesome.
Yeah.
But no, those guys are pretty good. They are pretty good. And they give everything as well, which is massive. Scrum's not just a front row thing. I think that's sometimes the tough thing about it is the whole 8. If you don't have your second row pushing, you can't push back. It's key for those guys to be working hard as well, and they do.
Oh, it's lovely if you do play number 8 and you've got front 5 that going forward. It's just one of the most wonderful feelings in the world. Amount of tries you score that should be their tries. Yeah. To get number 8 push over try should always go down against the half a bit at least to the front row. Oh boy, so
100%.
Just before we move on, how do people get in touch with you to take advantage of your business?
Instagram's kind of my main spot at the moment. So I've been doing a lot of my stuff through Instagram, posting videos through there, trying to post little things through there. But if they want coaching or want to talk to me about things, they just got to just message me on Instagram and I'll get back to them ASAP.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, we'll put a link up on our social medias and everything. Now, just to finish off, I mean, we're going to talk about the rest of the season.
Yeah. 2
big games coming up.
Massive.
Basically, massive knockout games. I mean, first up, Quins always raise their game.
Yeah.
It's like their cup final.
Yeah.
Every year. That's the next game up this weekend. How's the team looking forward to it? First time we've had them at Stonex for quite some time as well. Normally it's being played at Tottenham. So, I mean, how's things looking? Everybody fit? Everybody ready to go?
Everyone's ready to go. This surge at the end of the season, everyone's just been firing and everyone's just been ready to go. And we've got a good feeling, a very good feeling going around the camp. So I'm excited, very excited.
We've seen, obviously, the England squads have been announced, and we felt that you might be in for a knockings, but you finish the season, you never know what happens there. But Charlie and Noah must be on cloud nine at the moment, being included in that set.
They deserve it. They've been excellent. I'm really happy for them. Really happy for them.
We're going to say Queen's 5 points. It's got to be, isn't it? I'm a West Ham fan, so I've had enough of pessimism this week. I'm going optimism now. So full on optimism. The worst has happened. We'll get on with that. But get 5 points, and then it is a showdown in the West Country, and you're going back down to Sandy Park. First of all, what sort of reaction do you think you're going to get down at Exeter?
Probably not a good one. Probably not a good one. It's going to be interesting, but I'm excited. I'm really excited. I cannot wait.
I mean, you say, obviously, you come from Exeter. Presumably you've got family all down there who are probably Chiefs fans. Yeah, they're not talking to you now or for the next couple of weeks?
My old man was a Chiefs fan. Now he's a Saracens fan.
He's about the only person who's ever done that, that roundabout.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, and then, to be fair, I think my aunties and that love rugby as well, and they're still Chiefs fans, unfortunately. But they said that they'll support me, but just not. you know what it's like going from Exeter. And so for me, it's going to be huge. I'm excited. Really excited.
Looking forward to going into a pub afterwards and having a pint, especially if we've knocked them out of the Premiership.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It was close when we played them up here. Shame. It was like that last little bit, which is unfortunate, but we're going well. And I think if we just kind of focus on ourselves, the main thing going up to these last 2 games kind of is more of, I think I personally believe it's one of those things that you just need to internally focus on getting things right. And I think the rugby will take care of itself type of thing. It's just make sure everyone's right, feeling good, kind of focus on ourselves, not thinking about what's ahead or what's, mainly for me, I'm not thinking about what's ahead. I kind of go week by week. I'm not even thinking about the Exeter one right now. It's about beating Quins. And then I have been excited, but I've been trying just to zone in on that one thing.
Well, brilliant. Look, well, from all of us on the Fezcast, we always say this every time we interview one of you guys, is to say thank you very much for you for, first of all, taking time out of a busy day to talk to us. Secondly, best of luck for yourself.
Thank you.
Firstly, but also pass on our best wishes to the squad, the coaching and everybody, and say, we're all behind you as fans. I think the season's been one of those seasons that perhaps is one what we've not been used to in previous years, but we admire and respect the work that you put in at the end of the season, and like what Saracens always do. Always seem to come right at the right time of the season when it comes to getting to the big dance. They do it more often than not. Do you have a message for the fans, though, before we finish up, just in the build-up?
I do, actually. I just want to say thank you. I think that the messages I've had just on my Instagram, just things, I just think that you've got an awesome fan base. I think it's important. I've noticed it. I've been here for a season, and just talking to everyone and just the kindness that people stop you and just say like how well you've been doing and things like that. It's just, I massively appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you to all the fans. It's been awesome. I've loved every second of it here off the field, from the coach to the players to the fans. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marcus. And as I say, we wish you the best of luck, and may you long continue with a great career at Saracens. We enjoy watching you play each week. And we'll say thank you to Marcus, and we'll pass back to Duncan, Sam and myself in the studio to finish the show.
Thank you.
A ticky ticky tonga, a ticky ticky tonga, a massa wire, a massa wire. Leo, leo, leo.
Welcome back, everybody, to the last part of our Fezcast. And yeah, what a fantastic chat that was with Marcus. Lovely guy, Duncan, very open. As we always said, and I mean, they're always open and honest, the boys at Saracens, but I really got the impression that he really wanted to engage with the fans in that interview, and he said he did so, didn't he?
It came across very strongly, and I was quite surprised, actually, because I don't know why I thought this, maybe just looking at the way he is on the pitch, and he normally has quite a serious face. I thought he'd be one of the players that wouldn't enjoyed it, but he was very easy, wasn't he, and really engaged.
Getting the opportunity, Sam, to talk about what he enjoys in a game of rugby, and we were discussing off there about, you know, when we played, and now I'm running into people, because that's sort of like in my default setting, which has surprised a few people around Banbury. Although I did nearly run into Paddy Haynes, the Britain's strongest man, on Saturday at Parkford, and I would have bounced off of him. I tell you, he's huge. His enjoyment he gets from just doing the basic stuff. He doesn't want to be flashy, and sometimes you need that in the team. The fact that what he enjoys is hitting breakdowns and knocking people out the way so that Rhys Carey can go off and do his brilliant stuff all over the field.
What a well-spoken gent, and seems a very intellectual man as well, and like a bit like Max Laheath at Bristol, in that he takes great pride in doing the stuff that no one gets credit for, but to make people look better. So obviously he's doing the tighthead, so Rhys can do his thing. And as Rhys said on the interview with yourself the other week, he can't do what he does without Marcus there. And the fact that he's so young for a tighthead as well, I'm just really, really excited. And if he doesn't get a sniff with England over the next few weeks, it's coming soon. What a lovely guy, what a focused gent, and he just wants to be the best at what he can do, but he don't want credit for it. I found it brilliant, loved it.
What he's doing with his NGV, the no talent battle. I mean, we referenced that Toulouse game where he played the full 80 minutes, which he'd never done before, Duncan. And, you know, I'm not going to be disparaging about his previous club, but it's clearly something that he's been able to develop when he's at Saracens, where perhaps they've looked at fitness and helped him there. But clearly, fitness is one of those things. We laughed earlier on when you said, you know, you're from rugby from watching the game. If you played the game and coached the game, you look at players and you say, fitness, that's up to you. You can help people, you can create programs and everything, but fitness is up to you. And I know now, me as a player, in so much as that now I'm running, because it's something I have to work at because it doesn't come naturally to me. I've got a work ethic for my running that I never had as a rugby player, which is to my discredit, because I could have been an awful lot better if I had that same application that Marcus has got as a lad in his mid to late 20s now.
Yeah, the old debate, nature or nurture, isn't it? And it probably takes both. I mean, clearly the strength and conditioning boys at Saracens work some wonders, going back to Wells Skilton. And Hugh Tizard claimed that the job that they had done on Rhys Carey was just to cancel his Deliveroo account. But the chances are they're doing a good job on Marcus Street as well. I was very disappointed that you didn't ask him the question that I suggested to you, which is he's had to go off 2 games in a row for having a bash on the head, and he still comes back on. So has he got a metal plate in there? But he's strong in all sorts of ways.
Bangs on the head haven't affected his intelligence in any way whatsoever. I mean, there's some players you look how you get bang on the head and you couldn't tell the difference, could you? I mean, I just found him really engaging, and good luck to him with his business. I mean, the whole thing about I want to get people, the neck is, I know that myself. Neck injuries are horrible things to have, and particularly for a prop. You know, he's gone through a bit of adversity to get where he is now, and good luck to him.
There were 2 things that I personally really loved about it. The first was when you asked him who's the toughest loosehead he plays against. They had Rhys Carey in training, which I thought was brilliant. But tying across to the Joel Tomkins interview, Joel was talking about coming back in probably December, I would imagine, was the off-season for rugby league, and just immediately being able to, as he talked about when he was a player, just tap into this huge, mutual, genuine support system that Saracens seem to have. And Marcus Street was talking about it, wasn't it? It's something that has infused him, and it appears from the way he's talking, made him love the club.
Yeah, it clearly does. And his dad as well, who's turned from being a Chiefs fan into being a Saracens fan, although his aunties haven't done. And that was quite lovely at the end, I mean, I always wonders how that done, and particularly if you come from an area that, you're taking your son along to... Did Andy Farrell suddenly become a Racing fan when Owen was at Racing, for instance? I mean, that's there's lots of interesting little subplots there, isn't it? But... yeah, no, thanks to Marcus for that, and thanks to Danny at Saracens sorting that one out for me. That was absolutely brilliant of the guys. We do need to finish off, though, and look forward to this weekend's. Like Marcus said, we can't look too far ahead because we still got a job to do on the weekends. 1 o'clock on Saturday, we go to, we're at StoneX against Quins, which is an unusual thing, and we have discussed a little bit, but 5 points is the prerequisite there. We get 5 points. We put pressure on Chiefs who go to Tigers the next day. Potentially then we can be going to Chiefs the following week, a point ahead of them. We get 5 points and we hope the Tigers destroy Chiefs and nil them. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And then we go to Chiefs in 4th place and it's up to Chiefs. The pressure's all on them then, isn't it? So that's the prime thing we got to do, Sam, is get those 5 points on the weekends.
The fact it's at StoneX, we've got to do what we've got to do, and we've got to take care of business. I think we're going to win this and win this easily. This is going to look really bad next week when we, whether I'm on or not. This is going to look really bad. But do you know what I picked up on was after the last win when we had Gloucester, was Ben Earl's interview after, and I'm sure you gents saw it, was actually last year when we didn't make top 4, that stung more than it hurt, and the fact that Mark McCall is walking away, and a lot of this team owe Mark McCall a lot. I think it's deeper than just winning the game, and I just think it's fated. I think it's a Disney fairy tale, like that last week of the season. That's the quarterfinal at Exeter, and this team are on a mission. Pressure's off. I still think the pressure's off, and yeah, I think we're going to take care of business, and quite comfortably. But there we are.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing you made the point there, because even if it doesn't go our way in Chiefs the following week, and you would still make Chiefs favourites for that game at home, I'm certainly not going to be patronising to Chiefs or anything like that, or add fuel to their fire, as it were. But this is Smalley's last game at StoneX as director of rugby. We saw the ridiculousness on the weekend of a game against Man City being stopped halfway through it, so John Stones and Bernardo Silva could walk off to a guard of honour. And I'd tell you, if I was an Aston Villa player, there's no way I'd have been involved in that. That was ridiculous. But we've got to give Mark McCall's last memory at StoneX one where we not just beat, where we go out and make a statement win, like what Mark McCall has overseen many, many, many times over many, many seasons against Quins, Duncan. That's the driver. That's what's going to happen, isn't it?
There is that factor that, unfortunately for Quins, they will be going hell to leather to beat us, which is fine.
Yeah.
The really good point is that Leicester are still in with a shout of overhauling Bath. So they need to beat Exeter. If they didn't need to beat Exeter, then you've got to think that Exeter would be in the driving seat to get a win up there in Leicester. But they're going to have a very hard game. We're actually only 3 points behind them. So, okay, it's difficult to prevent a team like Exeter scoring a bonus point. So the chances are the best case is that we go to Exeter 1 point ahead. But the great thing is, if we get that 5 point win against Quins, come hell or high water, we go to Exeter with our fate in our own hands. Yeah. And, who would have been silly enough a few weeks ago to say that anybody who thought that was possible was deluded?
Yeah. I'm sure it was David Loxer, wasn't it, Duncan?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Yeah. I know you've got that snippet already edited, ready for a future show. But of course, very quickly as well, because we can't not move on and finish the show without talking about the fact that the women return to league action as well on Sunday away at Loughborough, playing at Northampton against the Lightning. That's going to be interesting, isn't it? Some girls coming back on some big highs. There's some big news coming out in the game of players moving on from clubs as well. So you wonder, Gloucester Hartpury are losing some big names going all over the place. You wonder whether there might be some names moving as well, because there seems to be some movement in the league. But yeah, Loughborough Lightning gave us a hard game last year, as I remember it. Went up there similar time of the year and we won it, but it wasn't an easy game. So, what are we expecting this time, Sam?
A win. That's simple.
I asked the question of Liz Craik a few weeks ago as to whether, because we don't need to win, whether that was going to influence, and she was adamant that it won't. Of course, the first game back after an international window we've seen before can be quite unpredictable, but I don't know. We're at the business end of the season now, not at the beginning of the season. I think these Saracens girls want to win this league this year.
Yeah, there's a determination about them, isn't there? You look at Marley Packer, who went away and had a fantastic tournament for England in the games that she played. She's got herself in a position. She's changed the game slightly to accommodate where she is in her career. You look at other players who are really performing. You've got Olivia Apps, who is just a cheat code, you say, but Tori Sellers is playing up to that. She's not hiding her light under a bushel, as it were. She hasn't wilted in the pressure that Olivia's put on. She's risen to the occasion and said that when I come on, I'm going to play at the same levels. You got Zoe Harrison, who's kicking balls from, there's every chance that she'll kick the ball from their own half at one point and score points. It's Jess Breach. It just does Jess Breach stuff, doesn't she? So there's an awful lot. I think you're right. Alex Osterbury hasn't tasted silverware for 2 or 3 seasons, so he's probably questioning whether his position, because that's the sort of bloke he is, that if we don't win this year, have I taken the team as far as I can go? So he's got drivers there to ensure that we're at 100%, and the girls have as well, haven't they? So yeah, all looks good.
Plus, fingers crossed, the World Player of the Year has come back unscathed, and that will be one huge addition to the squad, won't it?
Absolutely will be. So plenty to look forward to on the weekend, gentlemen. As we leave, I'd say thank you again, Duncan, for your interview with Joel Tomkins, and thank you, Joel, for taking the time out, even though you're down in the West Country driving your tractor around nowadays and everything. And thank you, Sam, for your time on this show, and indeed thank you again to Marcus for his time in the interview that I did with him. And thank you, everybody, for throwing your ideas at us to discuss in the middle of the show. So, as I say, yeah, thanks for that. We'll be back in the first week of June. Blimey, rugby's still going on in June, or whatever happened. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But, gentlemen, thank you for your time, and thank you everybody out there in Fezcast land for listening in and downloading us and enjoying the show.
This is the Fezcast.